No. And
Bill McConnell.
Tower Vista.
Here.
Two Rivers. And that does it.
And Gordon's here as well from McLaughlin.
Yes. We're checking up the primaries because you just need a rep here. So we shall commence with our presentations, beginning with
Oh, that's just cute.
Leanne. Ooh.
In place for Eric.
Would you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Leanne Hogue, Economic Development Coordinator for the city. You'll notice I'm not Eric Underwood. He is our Economic Development Manager, but he spent the day at the Oregon Business Plan Summit in Portland, so you're stuck with me for tonight. It's a good thing.
It is. I was making a face at the chair who finally showed up.
So I just wanted to start with our mission as an economic development department. I think a lot of people don't really know what we do as our department. We're a department of two, which is like very not typical for the rest of the city. You know, other departments are a lot bigger than ours. So really for our department, our job is to facilitate job creation, increase wealth, diversify the local economy, and enhance the livability within the community. That's super jargony, but what really all that means is that our job is to make sure that our citizens are successful and have successful lives by having jobs where they can provide for their families for everything that they want and need, and that they have places they want to go to have, fun lives and, good lives in the community, and that as a government agency that we can provide all the services that they expect out of a government. So that's kind of what we do in our department. It runs the gamut on things that you can think of. So I'll dive into more of what those are as I go through our presentation. Or through my presentation. And so our mission as a department translated into the City Commission creating Goal 1 for their 2017 and 2019 priorities, which you've probably seen our priority booklet. But in here, we as a department have 7 priorities under Goal 1 of cultivate an environment for successful economic development. And I'm going to touch on a few of those tonight, and then just some other activities that we do within our department. So specifically, I'm going to give you an overview of a project we call the Beaver Creek Employment Area, and then really give you a bit more information on our tourism strategic planning process we're currently undertaking, and then talk about some work we do called business retention and expansion, and then talk about also work we do in the downtown. So one of the really top priorities in the priorities for 2017 through 2019 are what we call develop industrial lands in the Beaver Creek Employment Area. And this is what we call the Beaver Creek Employment Area. So you can see here on the map, it's really 2 industrial development sites out by Clackamas Community College, really strategically located for our community and for a lot of communities in the Portland metro region, but really in the state and across the country, because it's right next to Clackamas Community College and Oregon City High School. And if you can think about it, with these 2 sites, it's right next to where employers can think about wanting to get future employees and train their current workforce. So this is a really big deal for Oregon City because we've got 2 sites, that's about 100 acres of greenfield industrial land where we can recruit either new employers to Oregon City to create jobs, or grow employers that we already have here in Oregon City that are potentially outgrowing their current facilities into a bigger facility and keep them here and providing those jobs that I was saying as part of our mission in economic development, keep them here and growing in Oregon City. And so we have done some analysis out in this area, and it's estimated to create about 1,650 jobs at full build out of the 2 sites, with an annual payroll of more than 124 million jobs into the local economy. Now, this is everything in economic development is a bit of a long-term play. So it's going to be a few years before something, that comes really to fruition. But this is one of the major projects and an example of a type of project that we work on in economic development. The way we go about doing this, and really our job in this area, is to attract business and industry to those employment lands. We do this through what we're calling a Putting Education to Work campaign, because it's so strategically located next to those education and training workforce resources. We're partnering with our partner agencies, Clackamas Community College, the county, and the Chamber of Commerce. So we're working with those three organizations in partnership to really have this collaborative process to leverage each other's resources and come up with a cohesive way to talk about Oregon City and be able to attract targeted industry. You'll see I've got 6 pictures up here on the screen, and these are our targeted industries for Oregon City in that particular area: advanced manufacturing, advanced tech, high tech, agricultural food production, food and beverage processing, professional business services, and software and media production. And the reason that those are our targeted industries for that area is because they're growing in Clackamas County in the state of Oregon, and they provide well-paying jobs. We're working on a marketing and recruitment strategy to recruit those companies, those types of businesses, and or grow those types of companies in Oregon City. And then we've created something called a Blue Ribbon Committee, which has representation from business and industry, our education and training partners, and our regional economic development and workforce partners to help us as we go through this process of creating a strategy and doing the work of growing and attracting industry to Oregon City. This is just an example of one of the things that we've done. I don't think it would be a surprise to you all, but we live in a digital world and everybody finds most of their information online. This is true for what we call site selectors, which is somebody that works with companies looking to either move their business or look for a second location for their company. They find most of their information online these days. So we've built a pretty comprehensive website about the benefits of doing business in Oregon City. One of the other priority projects that we're working on that's part of the priorities for 2017 through 2019 is develop a tourism plan that builds on the concept that was approved in 2016. So basically there was a group of community stakeholders in the Downtown Oregon City Association had done some initial work around tourism and brought that to the City Commission in 2016, which was approved as a concept. So our department has taken that work, and we are currently in the strategic planning process to build a more robust strategic plan around tourism that can drive economic development or economic tourism activity here in Oregon City. So we've contracted with a group called Coraggio Group. They're a consulting firm out of Portland to help us with this strategic planning process. They have extensive experience working with tourism industries, either with a government agency like ours or a standalone tourism like nonprofit group. So this is the framework that they have, which is in 3 parts: clarity, focus, and action. And since June, we've been working with them on going through this strategic planning framework. So to date, what we've done is a community survey, which I would hope many of you saw that survey. We sent it pretty far and wide through the neighborhood associations, on our Facebook, through Oregon City Business Alliance, the Chamber, Downtown Oregon City Association, really anywhere we could get this survey out, because we wanted the community's input on what they thought tourism was like in Oregon City and what they wanted tourism to look like in Oregon City, because we don't want to create a structure that the community doesn't stand behind. We got about 139 responses to that survey, and 50% of that was community members, because we also sent it to businesses that are in the tourism realm, and 50% of our responses were from community members at large. We've done a visioning retreat with stakeholders. We had 25 stakeholders in attendance, which was just the preliminary kind of setting setting the stage for this work, and really the bulk of the work so far has been done in what we're calling a planning team meetings. So we've done 5 planning team meetings with a set of 18 stakeholders, and then done 2 check-ins so far with the City Commission. This is just a picture to show you the type of work, like really interactive type of work that we've been doing. This is a picture from our stakeholder visioning retreat where our consultants have a really fun way of drawing out the information and getting us thinking about tourism in a different way, or thinking about Oregon City itself actually in a different way. You'll see in the middle, it talks about what does Oregon City sound like? What does Oregon City feel like? And so kind of thinking about that. And I thought, which was kind of fun, on the what does Oregon City sound like? People were saying it sounds like laughter, sounds like children laughing and running, and sounds like water falling because of the Willamette Falls and because we were in Oregon and rain. So they're pretty fun activities we do with the consultants. And since we do have a lot of citizen involvement, I wanted to give you an idea of who's on our strategic planning team. We've got a pretty good mix of people that are in the tourism realm or very passionate about tourism. We have Oregon City staff. We've got people from the business community, and then Denise from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association and Commissioner Ide from the City Commission. Where we are right now is we've gone through those 5 planning team sessions, and we are at the point where we have a draft strategic plan. So I wanted to show you, this is draft. We're not final. We're at the point where we're showing this to stakeholders and are actually going to do another stakeholder survey to show everybody what the components of the strategic plan are so we can get feedback, and once again, just make sure that our vision for tourism in Oregon City really sits well with the community, because tourism really is about community pride. You're inviting people into your community, and we want to make sure that that community is prideful and on board with what we're doing. So our vision for tourism is an inspired Oregon City at the confluence of history, exploration, community pride, and prosperity. Our tourism mission is to promote Oregon City as a gathering place for all by providing a variety of experiences through a collaborative, connected, and enduring tourism industry. And these are our 4 imperatives we've identified. We need to enhance the brand of Oregon City, coordinate tourism assets through collaboration, cultivate and curate a portfolio of experiences, and build tourism leadership capabilities. You may know or you may not know, but there's a lot of people passionate about tourism and involved in tourism, but nobody really leading tourism. That's one of the big things that we're answering with this project. And underneath those imperatives, there's initiatives and objectives to know that we're being successful. And so what we're going to be doing the next 2 months is getting additional stakeholder engagement and feedback on the plan, finalizing the plan, and then taking it to the City Commission for approval. And I wanted to talk to you about 2 other things we do in economic development, which certainly doesn't cover everything that we do, but what we do, we call keeping and growing our existing companies, which I touched on a little bit when I talked about the Beaver Creek employment area, but this is done through what a lot of economic development departments or organizations call business retention and expansion programs. And really the reason we do it is because 80% of new jobs in communities come from existing companies that are already in your community. So we go out and we interact with our companies that are already here and make sure that they're happy and healthy in Oregon City and connect them with resources, whether it be connecting them with the high schools and the community college to get kids in the career and technical education classes interested in their career or connected to them for a job when they graduate, or exporting to another country. So over the past few years, through our business retention and expansion work, we've helped companies create 75 jobs here in Oregon City. Through that work, we've kept companies here in Oregon City and they've not left, which meant that we've kept 364 jobs in Oregon City. And then through something called the Enterprise Zone, we've stimulated $7.9 million in private investment by businesses here in Oregon City. And then the other thing that we continue to focus on is we just always continue to focus on downtown. So I'm sure you all have seen the dramatic transformation of downtown Oregon City. I just moved here in January of last year, so I've seen pictures of the dramatic transformation and heard stories, but if you've lived here for a long time, I'm sure it's exciting for you. So over the last few years, more than 38 buildings have been renovated downtown. There's been more than 28 new businesses and more than $2.5 million invested in downtown. And a lot of that has been because of the Economic Development Department's involvement with businesses in the Downtown Oregon City Association and through grants and programs like Urban Renewal. So how are we going to keep the momentum? We'll keep working on projects that push downtown forward, like the Grand Cove development. We'll continue to work with our partners on the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. We've got some city-owned properties downtown that will be strategic about how those get developed in the future, and we partner pretty heavily and closely with the Downtown Oregon City Association. So I know I just hit you with a lot of information, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I was curious, those 98 acres in the Beaver Creek employment area, is that owned by Oregon City, or who owns those?
It's not owned by Oregon City, it's owned by private property owners. Our job really is to market Oregon City as a whole as a great place to do business, and then it's up to the private property owners if they want to sell their property, but we're working closely with the private property owners. All the property is up for sale.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry I was late. I have a question. You say you focus on downtown, which is great, but what about the other part, like Malala Avenue, that is a lot of businesses and a lot of rundown? While it's great that downtown, that's not the only section of Oregon City, so I have a hard time sometimes when all of the focus is on downtown, so I'm just wondering what you're doing in between Beaver Creek and downtown.
Right. I hear what you're saying. I think that the whole Malala stretch has a ton of businesses, and I can't remember the statistics, but there's a big chunk of our employment along that line. So the enterprise zone that we have runs all the way up Malala. So when we go out and do our business retention and expansion visits, we're covering all of Oregon City. So we're going out and trying to interact with as many businesses as we can to make sure that they're successful. So in that regard, we should be touching as much of Oregon City as possible.
But a lot of money's gone into making downtown look great. What about upgrading businesses along Malala to make that look better too?
They're not in urban renewal zone.
I would say at this point,
Up to the owners.
we don't have a program like Urban Renewal along that corridor that I know of.
Any other questions for Leanne? All right, thank you. Oh, wait, Commissioner Shaw.
Just one, Leanne, what's the, you've got advanced manufacturing in there. What is the difference between manufacturing and advanced manufacturing?
Advanced manufacturing is where they're doing it, lack of a better term, a bit more advanced. It's when they're using more of it's instead of using just the like lathes or, and I apologize, I don't know the exact, it's where they're using like the CNC machines, the machines that are more mechanically ran or ran by somebody that has the skills to,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
That was a test, Leanne.
She used the CNC, that's the most important thing. I think most people understood what she was talking about.
CNC was the key word. So.
All right, next up we have a presentation from ODOT, like Kelly Holly and Tom Hamstra. Apologize if I specified names.
Looks like one is in Tom.
One, no, that doesn't look like, I'm not going to judge. It might be Tom.
Tom's up next.
Oh, we're splitting up?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Introduce yourselves and let us know.
Sure. Hi, good evening. My name's Caitlin Jackson, and I'm in ODOT Region 1 Community Affairs. And tonight we'll do kind of a two-part presentation. I'll be here for both parts, for our Rockfall project and the tunnel illumination project. And so I have both of the project leaders here with me tonight, and they'll switch out. So go ahead.
I'm Kelly Holly. I am the project leader in charge of coordinating the Oregon 99E Rockfall project.
All right. We last spoke to you about the Oregon 99E Rockfall Improvement Project in April, so it's been a little bit. So I'm here tonight to help refresh our memories about what this project actually is, and also to provide you some information about some impacts you should be seeing shortly. So again, let's do a brief overview of the project. This project will increase the stability of the hillside and increase the safety of Oregon 99E in Oregon City. The stretch of the hillside adjacent to the highway we're examining is from the south end of the tunnel through Old Kanema Park. And on the fact sheets, there is a map that helps kind of give a little bit of perspective. When we spoke to you earlier this year, we were considering a third section further south. We will not be including that in this project due to availability of funding. However, it is on our list of a project that we'd like to complete as soon as we can find funding for it. The slopes adjacent to Oregon 99E, as you know, have a history of rock falls. So this project will increase the safety of the highway by reducing the potential for rocks to impact the road. In the two sections we're looking at, there have been 5 rock falls since 2008. And as you know from living here, some rock falls can cause no or little impact, but some can close lanes for days at a time. So in the northernmost section, what we will be doing is removing any vegetation and trees within 10 feet from the top of the cut slope. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a moment. And then we'll install rock bolts to help stabilize the slope. On the southern section, our geologists have determined that it will be necessary to move or remove the existing wire mesh and actually scale the slopes, which helps remove the loose rock from the face of the hillside. They will then also install rock bolts to help stabilize that and replace or repair the mesh. So schedule-wise, up first, we will need to do the tree removal. We're hoping to do it this winter. It could be as early as late this month or January. We do have a contract. We're working on getting a contractor on board for just the tree removal portion. We're hoping to complete that before March to remove impacts to nesting birds. There's a slight chance our contractor won't be on board at that time, and then we'll have to take a different approach to making sure we do not endanger any of those birds that could be nesting in trees. So I'll get back to you if we're for sure doing tree removal soon, but we'll talk a little bit about what that tree removal will mean once we start. Then most of the construction will take place either in spring or early summer and continue through fall of next year. So as I said, in preparation, the contractor will need to remove trees and vegetation from the slopes. The trees that are being removed are considered hazard trees, which means they're either in danger of falling on to the roadway or their roots are loosening the rocks, which could then fall onto the roadway. And we have been talking with Oregon City, and we're in conversation continued about which trees they are. And there are a few near the promenade walkway that you will notice, but most of the trees are on the face of the slopes. And none of these trees are really the shade trees that you notice when walking in the summer on your promenade walkway. So what's up next? Tree removal impacts. So during tree removal, there will be lane closures on Oregon 99E. And if the contractor decides to actually drop the trees from top of the slope onto the road, we will be doing 20-minute traffic holds for your safety as travelers, but also for the contractor. We're planning that work to be during the day, off-peak hours from 9 to 3. And it should take about 15 to 20 days to remove all the trees and vegetation from both slopes. So the slopes will look different, but should only take about 20 days. And pedestrians will have some impacts on the promenade walkway and in Old Kanema Park. And we're working with the city to identify detours as needed for those pedestrians. For the main project, we are also looking at daylight hours, and that's because the contractor will be physically scaling the slope, and they need daylight to do that. We're also looking at 24-hour lane closures as we discussed in April. And these are really necessary to create a safe work zone for both the traveling public and for the contractor. This isn't work that we can really create a safe work zone and then tear down to open it back up. So those will be in place. We're looking at about 5 months of rock work, but we are looking at doing the tunnel section, prioritizing that to get that done first, because we do know that that's a tighter squeeze right there. So we have been working on some contract language to try to get that out of the way and back open for the heat of summer and the Clackamas County Fair, to be back open for school and to avoid some of those significant impacts. During the work, travelers should expect delays and plan an alternate route. We are going to be placing some portable variable message signs far enough back so that people can make a decision to take I-5 or an alternate route, including I-5 North, or taking Oregon 211 to Oregon 213 to then bypass the work and connect with I-205. There are some options, and we're hoping by getting the word out ahead and also placing those signs, people can make decisions and choose an alternate route. Of course, that'll be a little bit more difficult for those of you who are coming directly to Oregon City, but hopefully that gets the word out to people that are more the through traffic. And during that work, we are anticipating that there may be some minor pedestrian detours on the Promenade Walkway and also in Old Kenema Park. And that's because the contractor might need to tie off from above to access the slopes. We're anticipating that will be mostly needed during tree removal, but it could also be needed during the rock work. We don't know for sure if they're gonna access the slopes from below or above, so we'll have more information about what kind of pedestrian impacts that would be once we have a contractor on board. So that is the majority of the update for that project. I can take questions about that now or at the end of both.
Go ahead, Gordon.
I was just curious, it seems as if that a lot of traffic might be forced through the McLaughlin neighborhood here by people trying to bypass it. Is there any idea or thought to what to mitigate that somehow maybe, or has anything been thought about that issue?
Do you want to speak to that?
Well, we have had several discussions about how to encourage traffic to detour off 99 before. We are issuing, our recommended detour plans. We can't tell people you cannot turn here. But we are doing everything we can to get word out and encourage people to detour off. We're planning on having signs back as far as Aurora and detouring people and letting them know. And having just had the water pipeline project, hopefully the people that travel through there will understand what we mean when we say, hey, we're going to be impacting this. We're using the same traffic control in that area, so we're hoping that people will remember, and when we say get off in Aurora, get off in Canby, that they actually will listen and move from there.
Caitlin, wait. Gotta wait your turn. Oh, sorry. Dennis?
Yes, I'm curious about the period of demolition on the trees. So is that starting in March or ending in March? Is that I'm trying to get an idea on the timeline here.
Tree removal, if all goes well, it will be done before March 1st.
Before March. And then is there something a little bit more specific about spring construction, when that would begin?
We are looking, I'm trying to remember exact dates, but June, I believe we were looking at June for the tunnel cut to start in June, and it needs to be done before the Clackamas County Fair. However, it won't take the full, is that 8 to 10 weeks? It wouldn't take that long.
Okay, thank you.
Well, when we have a contractor on board, that'll help dictate the schedule.
And then you'll notify?
We will.
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah, two questions. On those 20-minute closures during the tree removal, do you have any idea how many of those periods might happen during a normal workday? And then the other thing, on a project like this with the tree removal, is there a mitigation plan required for the trees that are removed?
Sure. There's no mitigation plan for these trees because they're one on ODOT right of way, and two, they're considered hazard trees. So these aren't your traditional shade trees or trees that you enjoy. Most of them are growing off the cliff, so there's not really a place to mitigate. Do you have a traffic hold answer?
I don't really have a good traffic hold answer because it will depend. We cannot dictate means and method to the contractor of how they will remove the trees. And so I don't know exactly how they're going to. We anticipate that they will lower them to the highway and remove them as quickly as they can. And do you still have a set of those plans, the pictures?
Mm-hmm.
I would say we can show you a set of the pictures that shows what we're removing. There's not a lot of like large trees. Most of it's shrubs and brush. So I don't have an actual answer for you as to the number that they anticipate, but I was told like through the tunnel cut area, that should be about 2 weeks for the tree removal. I believe 2 to 3 weeks for the tree removal. But we're limiting the hours that they can work. So that's not really answering your question, but I don't have a true answer for
I guess what I'm really asking, is there any sort of requirement that they let traffic clear before they close it again for another 20 minutes?
Yes, they can hold for 20 minutes. They have to clear traffic and then they can hold for 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Karen.
Oh, shut up and shut. So is this going to be kind of like the pipe work where you'll have 2 lanes open during the rock scaling?
We're using a similar traffic control pattern as they did during the during the pipeline. But our traffic control devices will be a little bit more permanent looking because they're in place longer and they have to stand up. But the general traffic configuration will be very similar to what you experienced.
Okay.
Josie?
Thanks, Amy. Can I ask 2 questions?
You may.
All right. So number one, I think of everyone up here. I'm on the promenade more than anyone else. I'm up there every day, walking a couple times, and I'm wondering when we get to find out exactly which trees are going to be taken. You mentioned 10 feet. From my perspective, walking along the park, that seems like every tree between the pathway and the road. So my primary concern is right around, just a little bit north of 3rd Street on the top, is a grove kind of at the low point of the promenade. And they're not maples, they're not oaks, I'm not sure what they are. There's a bunch of them and they're fairly mature. Are those within the 10-foot area?
So the trees that we're taking are on the cliff side of your wall there.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so there's a handful of trees, like kind of a cluster. Is that what you're referencing?
Probably the closest you're going to get to a grove
Okay.
on that side of the barrier.
I have some photos, and I'm happy to share with you so you can see. But I believe there's 3 or 4 or 5, like a little cluster of trees that are on the cliff side of the wall, and those are scheduled to be removed.
So basically, every tree on that side of the wall.
It's not every tree.
If they are close to the wall and removing them could potentially impact the wall, we will not remove those trees. But the ones that are closer to the cliff face, because their root system does impact the rocks and loosens the rocks, is the main reason for those needing to be removed.
I'm happy to show you and share with you the photos where you can kind of see which trees are marked.
Thanks. So some of those trees are pretty big. Root systems, I'm thinking, are probably fairly deep in the cliff. Once you kill the trees, those root systems are going to decay, and you'll, in theory, get some gaps in the rock. I'm just theorizing here. What's the long-term plan? I know there's going to be mesh installed, but I'm concerned about taking out these trees that are you could argue are also stabilizing the cliff. By removing them could destabilize it.
Well, we are inserting rock bolts where needed to help stabilize the formations. Those are for the larger column formations. Our geologist has been out there looking at the trees, and he'll be on site as well during tree removal to determine which trees would, 1, jeopardize the wall, but 2, not do as much good by removing them. Do you have?
I think I know, I think I understand your question, and my answer is that I am not knowledgeable enough to make that call, but I trust my geologist and my environmental specialists who have told me that the best thing to do in that location is to remove those trees. We can follow up with them to get a better answer for you, because I don't feel like I can really answer your question.
That'd be great. I'd be curious where those 8 rock falls since 2008 were located.
Yeah,
well.
I have that on a map I can share with you as well.
Thank you.
Well, and I have to say, I'm happy to see the trees go. I like to take photographs from the promenade, and I've taken people on tours trying to point things out, and you've got to get around the trees. And we've got some great old historic photos that you can look right off the promenade at everything. So
Right.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
We're not going there.
most of the ones you're talking
Just
about are
had to
maples.
throw that one out there.
Yeah, the ones I'm talking about are in the lower area. I don't think there's much of a view.
Are you talking up by the VFW?
As you proceed from 3rd south towards the VFW, I think there's mostly maples on the right.
Because that's the only real cluster that I can think of is right before you get to the VFW heading south.
Oh no, I was thinking one north of 3rd. So
Third is closer to the Quonset hut.
Okay.
yeah, but
I'll share
I
with
think
you.
there was a cluster and those were pretty close to the wall. And
there's one tree that's kind of growing into the wall. That's
so
the cluster.
those right there, I believe they wanted to avoid those.
I agree. Jesse walks this promenade.
Yeah, much too much.
I'll move on to my second question though.
I was going to ask, have we get your second question yet?
How long is this project expected to be effective? In other words, when is this going to need to be done again in the future?
100 years.
Do you remember what he said? I would think he's.
Well, I can tell you the past. We installed the wire mesh last on the northern section in 1995 and on the southern section in 1983.
I was thinking Fred told me 20 to 30 years before we'd have
That's
to
about right then.
come back.
Okay, thank you.
Roy, did your question get answered?
Yeah, I just had some basic traffic control questions. They're probably more for the city than for.
Oh, okay. All right.
Great.
Okay.
I will.
Thank you, Kelly.
And while Tom joins me, I did want to let you know for the Rockfall project, we have an online open house available. And if you have any questions or your neighbors have questions, that's a great way to learn more about the project and also submit those questions, join our mailing list to get more information. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good
Tom?
evening. My name's Tom Hamster. I'm the project manager for a project to upgrade the illumination in the tunnel under the railroad on 99E and to improve the lighting on the pedestrian tunnel, which is right next to that tunnel. Also, as part of the project, we're going to install variable message sign that will be facing uphill, so it'll be a few hundred feet away from the tunnel, and so that message sign will be activated when there's congestion on the downtown side of the tunnel and in the tunnel, so that vehicles have a chance to slow down and keep from colliding into the congested traffic.
All right. As Tom said, the project will increase the illumination and visibility in both the vehicle and pedestrian tunnel. We are pretty early in design, so we don't have all the details for you, but we'll keep you in the loop as design progresses.
So what we're trying to do is upgrade the illumination to modern lighting. So now that we have LED lights, they'll consume a lot less electricity and they have a longer life. So what our design engineer, we have a consultant working on this for us, and he's kind of an expert in illumination engineering. And so we're looking at a couple different options, 3 rows of light versus 2 rows of light, and they have different kinds of distribution patterns and so on. So I've asked them to come up with a couple of the concepts, and then we can take a look at the traffic control and the detours required for when we put the stuff in here, because you can imagine, first of all, that structure was built in the 30s by the railroad. And so it's a pretty old structure, and so we need to put new conduit runs and new fixtures, but you also know that the vertical clearance isn't super high. Right now, those are kind of recessed up in there. So we need to figure out how to make this all work without decreasing the vertical clearance in there, horizontal clearance as well. And then, so once we kind of pick what we're going to do, then we need to back our way into what hours of the day and what kind of closures, and then there'll be some detours as well, because when the contractor's in there working, you know, if you run a semi through there, that sort of cleans out all that space, so he can't work. So so once we pick what we want to do, then we'll kind of back into what's going to be the least impact for the community, because, you know, here we are, we're doing a rockfall project, and we did something else. What was it? We just
The pipe.
The water pipeline.
The city did the pipeline.
Oh, that's right, pipeline project.
One other element of this project is, you can just barely see it on this slide, at the face of the pedestrian tunnel, we're looking at putting in a new fixture there that's kind of historically similar to the one that was actually put in originally. So that's kind of a fun.
Yeah, we
element of the project.
got pictures just after that were taken just after the construction of the original tunnel. There probably folks here have those too. Anyway, one of the pictures showed that old fixture, and so we're going to try to locate another fixture for the outside the pedestrian tunnel that looks like that one.
So Tom kind of explained what the variable message sign will do. This is an approximate rendering of what it will look like. It's the larger structure closest to the front. And so it'll be placed roughly here, and again, to alert of congestion inside and beyond the tunnel. We have been working with the city, who specifically has an interest in this element. And we feel it'll come even more into play in improving operations with the ongoing redevelopment in Oregon City.
I had a question. That sounds a good idea, but there's another like blind curve, like in Kenema, or where the 99 is really going fast, and then it comes up and it backs up there. I mean, it would be nice if you could have another one right there, because I've almost just come around this curve up this hill, and then there's all these cars. There's a stop sign, and like you're going 50 miles an hour, and then it just stops. And so like there's another trouble spot a little bit south of there.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Right now, it's just this one sign, but that's something I can share.
Sure.
So schedule-wise, we're still early in design. It'll continue through roughly summer 2018 for design, and then we're looking at coming in after the Rockfall project, either in fall of 2018 or spring of 2019. And so we'll be back with more information and sharing updates before then. But just so you know what to expect. As Tom said, we're not positive what the impacts will be. We're looking at some nighttime and daytime lane closures on 99E to do the work. And right now, with the current plan for fixtures, we are looking at having to close the vehicle tunnel for at least one night. That's because right now the fixtures are in the center, and you can't really get at those with having traffic in the tunnel. So depending on where we put the fixtures back in, we might need some more.
So we're gonna try to plan the work so that, you know, we have to drill a shaft for that BMS sign, the message sign. So we're gonna try to make sure that all gets doubled up, just to, you know, not double the pain, but see if we can be efficient with that.
And during work, the pedestrian tunnel will be open for pedestrians. There may be some periodic holds, like if they have a fixture currently coming out that's a danger to someone walking through, they might hold you for a moment, but we intend for that to be open for pedestrians during work. Are there any questions about the tunnel project?
While you're doing all this Could you paint the inside of the pedestrian tunnel with the anti-graffiti paint?
Huh, that's a good question.
Take a note of that.
It'll be brightly lit so they can paint even better if you don't.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to see clearly if whoever is painting. with the
They
new
can get
lights,
in too
but,
deep.
I have taken a note of that, and we'll bring it back to our design team.
Any other tunnel questions?
All right.
All right, great job.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Caitlin, would you mind passing the?
And after months and months and months of absences, it feels like, welcome back, John.
Excused absences, right?
Obviously, it's very,
Well,
you've been missed.
I definitely appreciate being here and being asked to be here. So I'll just go through this pretty quickly because there's a lot to present, and I wanted to. It's been a long time since I've been here. We've been through most of 2017. I will say it's a good time to go through all our updates because we're doing the same thing for the City Commission at.
Hang on a sec until Tom's done.
Thank you, Paul. Tom didn't want to share.
She can get it from the mayor.
Okay, so anyway, just going through this pretty quickly, and we'll do. I can answer questions before or after, during, doesn't matter. You guys are used to throwing out questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. So I want to start off with some highlights and talk a little bit about some of the things that we've gotten. First of all, this one's one we're pretty proud of. Matt Polison, who's our street operations supervisor, who received this 2017-18 Pavement Manager of the Year by the Northwest Pavement Management Association. That's 3 states that make up the Northwest Pavement Association. So that's an amazing little award that he got, and it had a lot to do with the effectiveness of our pavement management program. So we're pretty happy about that. I think it represents not only his work, but the work of the crew in total, and the commission, for that matter, for approving the fee and keeping us up to speed with that. So the other award we got was 99 E Bluff Waterline Replacement Project that was mentioned today. Just the complexity of traffic control and that just building that pipeline up there, which I know pipelines aren't that beautiful, but that's a pretty cool looking pipeline up there. So we thought that was pretty good to get that award from the Oregon chapter of the American Public Works Association. And then the Oregon Health Authority gave us a what they called an outstanding performance. That's a rank we've not ever received before. So that has to do with safety within our distribution system, treatment, all the kinds of things that you might expect from a water system and the appropriate operation of a water system. So those are very good. That was a very, very nice thing to get. We're also working with finance and every other really department, well, definitely community services department, GIS, and engineering. We're all working on moving towards a new permit system, which is called EnerGov. So we're looking at a lot of our permitting processes to make sure we've got that, everything from a subdivision to a single family home, and just some of the approval criteria, and how do we do that in a way that's efficient and moves through the system pretty quickly. It also gives us once the financial piece is also online, we'll have a lot better opportunity to track project costs. So we're looking forward to that as well. Just in terms of department staffing, we've had a couple of project engineers that were promoted to senior engineers, and we've got a senior administrative assistant that advanced as well. We've had some new hires mostly in the operations group, but we also have a new permit tech, so that's been a good decision, and a couple of inspectors as well. And then right now, the only position that we have, we've got 2 positions open. One is a utility maintenance specialist. The other one's our right-of-way and construction management position. So we're looking forward to trying to fill that. So if you know anybody that's in the construction inspection, actually construction management realm, and also knows a little bit about right-of-way management, they'd be perfect for us. So send them our way. And then I just wanted to mention the new pipeline TV inspection equipment that the commission authorized. This has been very effective. We've had a TV inspection rig and equipment for years, but it's been problematic, and this new equipment is locally serviced, which helps. And our guys like it a lot better. We also recently got the commission to approve what we call a lateral launch camera, so that will not only will we be able to look at the main lines, but we can launch a camera up the lateral to better establish not only what the condition of it is from a visual perspective, but also locate that device along the way. So sometimes it's not always clear whether those service laterals are going straight over to the property line or if they're meandering somewhere else. So that's a pretty impressive piece of equipment, and the crew's done amazing things with it. We haven't seen footages like what we're seeing now in a long time. Since July of 2017, they did almost 22 miles of sewer and 27 miles of 27 miles have been cleaned and 22 miles have been inspected. So that's a pretty good plan. They're trying to get through the system in 6 years. So that's way better production rates than we've ever seen before. So congratulations to them. Okay, so long list of capital improvement projects. I listed them by transportation, then I'll go through the utility. So the 2017 preventative maintenance and reconstruction projects, those are all complete. Actually, the first 6 projects are completed, so I don't want to say, I wasn't going to go through each of them, but a couple things I did want to acknowledge was this year we tried what we call an asphalt rubber chip seal. So Holmes Lane and Clackamas River Drive are locations where we use that. It's a recycled rubber product, and it goes down with asphalt and rock and sand and provides a surface that we've never tried before in Oregon City, so we're giving that a try. We think, based on our first impressions, it's going to work very well for Oregon City. So that's something I wanted to mention. Also wanted to mention the median down here on 10th Street, the median that prohibits you from making, if you're headed eastbound or up the hill, it prevents you from making that left turn into Dutch Brothers. And so my first concern was there was going to be a lot of community upset about that, but it's turned out a lot of folks are favorable to that particular change. So we're happy about that. And for the most part, it's been without much incident. I think police have been enforcing the no U-turn there, and hopefully that won't happen because it's a dangerous place to make a U-turn. So if you see somebody doing that, no road rage, but let them know you're not happy about it with a horn, a gentle horn. Yeah, so let's see. 15th Street, I just want to mention, we paved a bunch of 15th Street, but there's a couple of sections. Really, one of them, the worst section is between Center Street and Main Street. And we've got a pipeline there, a deep pipeline that really needs to be improved. So we're trying to get that. It wasn't part of the paving project, so we're trying to get a contract and to do the design work and then get it bid. That, and there's another section up by Jackson as well, same thing. We did a lot of TV inspection up there, but somehow we missed these 2 pipelines, and they both needed some work. So we're going to go back in. Same paving contractor. We just extended the contract, and we're hoping to get that done in the spring. Holcomb Boulevard, I also wanted to mention that one. We did some work along the slide repair there. We weren't real happy with the end result, and so we're going to go back in and extend those walls a little further along Holcomb Boulevard, which is right down near Redland Road. So if you use that route a lot, you see it. Right now, to me, it looks kind of like an eyesore because they use some materials that we had on hand, some Jersey barriers, and they're not the look that that I'd like to have. I think from a functional perspective it works, but not from a visual perspective. The signal at 12th and Washington, that's out to bid. We got 4 bids on the project, and they were all under the engineer's estimate, so we're real happy about that. We're trying to figure out whether or not the low bidder is qualified to do the work. We want to make sure we've got a qualified contractor, so that's on the plan. So
these SDC projects, John, just for, I know we have transportation, and everybody knows that we're kind of heavy on transportation on SDC projects. I didn't know if any of these were.
Some of them are. I'm going to say, let me think through this list here. Main Street extension for the Cove project. The Cove developer has received SDC credits. 15th Street paving is not. Most of these, I guess, are not, now that I look at them. 12th and Washington is about 30% SDCs because most of that isn't necessarily going to add a lot of capacity. It's more of a safety project. Malala Avenue, as I get down to that one, that'll have some SDC funds, as Myers Road is probably the best representative example of SDC funded projects. So again, the 12th and Washington project, hope to get that to the commission at the meeting. I think it's the December 20th, is that right? Yeah, so that's the next meeting that we'll be able to hit. And really, signals take a long time with regard to ordering the materials, so we probably won't see this project starting until May or June of 2018. But that's a project that I think the community was really kind of clamoring for. Wasn't on our plan to build, but we, after having a significant number of accidents at that location, we decided that we would reanalyze the warrants for that. And in doing that, they suggested that we could, the signal was warranted and we could move forward with that. 2018 preventative maintenance reconstruction projects. That's what's coming up this summer. The big project that I think is, we're really going to have to dance around this ODOT project a little bit with, but we identified High Street between South 2nd and really 3rd. So near the Kwanzaa Hut on High Street, all the way to where you would come up the hill from 99E. And then, so we've got water line needs in there we want to take care of. That street is in such rough shape, we'll probably be reconstructing it, at least the section from curb to curb. And we're also going to want to take it up South 2nd between High Street and Center Street. So those are a couple of pretty major projects that will be done. A lot of smaller segments. Partlow Road, for those of you out in that neighborhood, we'd actually like to get some more sidewalk connectivity in there. So we're going to try to work with the property owners along there to see if we can't get that at least on one side of Partlow Road completed. But yeah, a couple other small ones, but look for more information on that as time goes on. We're not quite there yet with design. Just a reminder, the Malala Avenue, I get questions about this a fair amount. The Malala Avenue project's really not intended to be funded. The funding starts in 2019, and we've yet to hear from Metro, even though we've inquired several times exactly how they want to manage that project. Those funds will be coming by way of Metro, so we're kind of holding out. But we'd like to start that sooner, but that's when the funding is scheduled to come through, is 2019. And then the Myers Road Extension project, you know, that's a big project. That's one of the first through streets that the city's designed and constructed on their own in a long, long time, and it includes all the utilities. So we're in planning for water and sewer and storm. That's in the design phase. We just recently received 95% plans. So we've been through a 50% plan review. Now we're looking at the 95% plan review. We've still got a fair amount of work to do, though. I think the design work is going to get finished, and it's going to sit on the shelf for a little bit. We've got a couple of problems there. One is right-of-way acquisition. I don't know that that's a problem, but it's an issue that we're still trying to work through. And the biggie and the new one is the BPA power lines. We were under the impression we had clearance both away from the towers and clearance under the power lines. And BPA, we met with BPA recently because we learned that the highest voltage, the 500 kilovolt power lines through there require more clearance than what we have right now. So we're talking to them about tower changes. We're just starting that conversation. So unfortunately, I think that's going to impact the project and timeline for some time. And we'll see. When I say sometime, I mean probably 6 months to a year, depending on how those conversations go with BPA. So It's a great project. We're looking forward to it. It would include not only Myers Road, but it include an additional lane, travel lane on 213 through that intersection, and a new signal at 213, new ADA ramps, ped buttons, a full deal. ODOT's requiring us to completely upgrade that intersection. It would also include a connection to the community college and their new parking lot and transit center, which I'm also going to talk about.
John, about that Myers Road, it's probably too early to know, but one of the things that has been asked at our neighborhood for Gaffney Lane is if you're in contact with TriMet and if they will be using that extension.
They will be. I'm sure they will. Well, I haven't seen their transit changes, but my sense is there's a driveway that's shown off this alignment there that kind of points towards the community college. So the community college is on the top of the page, and 213 is on the kind of the right side. High School Lane, or the new school transportation facility, is on the right-hand side. So at a minimum, they'll be using that driveway access as needed. They're reconfiguring their whole parking lot to a pretty significant degree. I don't know if there have been any public meetings on that yet, but I've seen a couple of concepts that look pretty impressive for a new transit center and parking area. And I suspect they will be using this driveway. The question about whether or not they'll be going through all the way to Beaver Creek Road, that's probably a longer term question. They haven't changed any of their service plans based on our alignment yet. So anyway, this is kind of the alignment, and you see those BPA, that they've got like a 250-foot wide swath that crosses 213 through Beaver Creek Road and goes right through these properties, including these two properties that are shown, the community college, really that whole economic development area that Leanne was talking about earlier. And yeah, we're clear on the lower wattage power lines, but the higher wattage power lines are a problem for us. So that's kind of an unfortunate find. Okay, I'm probably way over time, so I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. And we already talked about the 99 Bluff Water Line, Peters Keene Way Emergency Sanitary Sewer Project. That was a $337,000 project that wasn't planned. That was due to a landslide in a canyon there that took out the sewer line. That's completed. We did that trenchless, so there is no sign of trenching through the property there. They basically bored it through a forested area, which was pretty cool. The Boynton Reservoir Fall Protection projects, those are completed. Basically, so that we could get up and maintain the top of that tank, we needed to make some changes to it so it would be compliant with today's standards. Some pump station changes. We already talked about the 15th Street project. Beaver Creek Road Sewer Extension project. That's it's on Beaver Creek Road, just near the community college's driveway on Beaver Creek Road. We're going to be extending that not quite a mile out towards just beyond Loader Road. So the idea there that would be available for new development in the Beaver Creek Concept Plan area. That is an SDC funded project, Brian, just so you know, not transportation SDCs, but sewer SDCs. We also got a grant for the design phase services on that. So that's a good project. That should start January of 2018. We've awarded the contract. We've negotiated with the contract to do that work at night instead of during the daytime. So if you live out along Beaver Creek Road, just know that that work's more likely to happen than at night than during the day. And then we're still working on our final moratorium project. It's turning out to be the more complicated project because most of that runs along Coffee Creek and in people's backyards. So trying to figure out alternatives that might be less impactful to the creek and those properties. And there's quite a distance between, it runs through, I don't know, a dozen backyards, and there's no real access from side streets in any of those areas. So it's kind of an access problem. So it's a challenge. Private development, if you haven't been on Main Street Extension, it's done, and finally. So that's a nice looking project and functions pretty well. The hospital and their projects up around the hospital are ongoing, but for the most part, the paving's complete and the roads are reconstructed. The community college, they've got a lot of things that are going on, mostly not related to public improvements. So, but our department does a lot of the site design and plan review for that. The Holcomb Boulevard, Abernathy Landing is a 98-lot subdivision up off of Holcomb. It's ongoing. They've kind of buttoned that up for the wintertime, but they're still working up there. The Malala Avenue Fire Station, they're waiting to get permits, but they're ready to go. They'd like to start moving sooner than later, and so we're working with them pretty closely right now. Our project is still in the design phase. We don't necessarily see a lot of changes to our project. We've gotten through a couple things. The City Commission made some decisions on the LUBA appeal with regard to reviewing of the Camp Adair buildings. So those that decision's been made, and what we've been doing in our department, less related to the land use or that land use decision, is more related to the geologic evaluation of the site on the upper site, and particularly up in Waterboard Park. There's been a lot of concerns and questions and claims made about what the geologic scenario is inside the park just above our site. So we put a lot of energy into documenting that with some, we've done some boring up there and some testing. So we're planning to bring all that back in a pretty detailed report, and that'll go along with the land use package, because that was something that was required as part of the land use. That and the traffic study. So, Gordon, did you have a question?
Will that be like online for people to look at, the geotechnical report?
It will be. Yep, it'll be public document and part of the land use application.
Do you know when that'll be available?
I haven't seen it yet in its entirety, so I've seen pieces of it, but we're supposed to get a draft here soon, I would just say. So I doubt we'll submit before the new year.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, Willamette Falls Legacy Project, that's mostly others, but for us, we're kind of talking, Christina's got us talking about development strategy and how to get utilities in there and how to phase those, and it's pretty interesting process.
It's really exciting stuff.
It's exciting stuff, yeah. How do you get it done? That's kind of the question. Lots of permits, so we're still pretty busy, and we've had more pre-application meetings than I think we've ever had, at least in a very, very long time. So those meetings have been consuming. The other thing we're doing, just because we've heard so many, let's say, comments about our permitting process, at least on the development side, has been meeting with other agencies to figure out how they do their permitting. So Wilsonville, West Linn, and Happy Valley. That's been an interesting process. So we're learning some things about how others do development review in their community. And then lots of engineering projects. So we did and is available online this water quality environmental feasibility study for the Clackamas Cove. That's available if you'd like to look at it. It talks a lot about projects that could happen in the cove to improve water quality. And we're kind of trying to figure out what exactly to do with that with the new development proposal in the cove. I've got one of my next slides is about transportation system development charges, so I won't talk much about it here. Same with the alternate mobility study. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Stormwater master plan, still moving forward with that. We hope to move through the land use approval process of that next year. Our I&I study for infiltration and inflow into the sewer system, that still continues. We haven't been able to quite finish that up, but we're working through it. So we've got quite a few studies going on. Hydraulic modeling is done for our water system. That was an update from the 2012 water master plan, and now we're kind of taking a new look at capital improvements because we think we have some things that weren't quite right in that old model, and we've done a lot to inform that old model with a lot of the SCADA data that we pull, real-time data off our water system. So that's been informative and will help us do a better job of figuring out what we really need for capital improvements. Still trying to work through with Clackamas River Water on a couple of studies that could affect Oregon City. This 20-mile-per-hour speed zones in Oregon City, we are just now looking at policy ideas for how to implement 20-mile-per-hour speed zones in Oregon City, and we're thinking we presented it to the TAC last week and got some good feedback from the Transportation Advisory Committee, and our focus has been on using our transportation system plan in those streets that are designated as family-friendly routes. So slowing traffic down in those areas would be the idea. So more to come on that. We've still got some landslides to deal with, and I'll just jump to the safe routes to school. That's an area where we're hoping to meet with the the school district again. I still see, right now, Oregon City doesn't have a safe routes to school program. And what we're seeing in terms of funding is there is some money, about $10 million a year statewide that'll be dedicated to safe routes to school programs. Us not having one is a disadvantage. So we're going to meet with the school district. I definitely see that as kind of a three-legged animal, which should be neighborhoods, school district, and the city. And that's the best way to get those things approved and get the most support. So be looking to the CIC to maybe sit in on some of that. Got to figure out what the school district's thinking first, but definitely an area where we need to target if we want to get those kind of funds. This is just an announcement slide that we're at Wednesday's meeting is our first public hearing on some code changes. So we're kind of taking this through a couple things. We're doing code changes that will be, the first reading will be December 6th and then December 20th. Those are pretty basic language code changes. They do address some things that we've heard from the chamber about needs to change to help maybe move some of that load, make it a little more favorable for commercial development with regard to SDCs, so the credits that the commercial developers might get if they've got an existing use. So that's going to be a big change. But the other big piece, which it requires public hearing, where we'll be doing what we call methodology changes and a rate resolution, which the proposal would be to increase our SDCs. This methodology is regarding transportation system development charges. So more to come on that. Pay attention if transportation SDCs are a concern for you or an interest of yours, because we'll be talking about just some things we want to change that would take more of the way it's really kind of laying out is that transportations like projects like biking and pedestrian projects that are on local streets would be more covered by the residential SDC, and projects that are on arterials and collectors would be more covered by the commercial SDC. And what that does is it shifts a little bit more of the SDC on the new residential properties. So whether that's good or bad is yet to be seen, but it will result in some changes to SDCs. We also just recently updated the transportation SDC project list to, the commission adopted that list. And so we've got new, the project list didn't change that much, although we adopted all the concept plans that we've incorporated all those into that project list. And we updated all the estimates for those. So it's a big effort. I wanted to mention our Transportation Advisory Committee is working on something that's meant for the neighborhoods. It's called Neighborhood Traffic Fact Sheet, and it's called a guide of neighborhood traffic management information and summary of traffic calming devices. So The Transportation Advisory Committee, as well as staff, have been working hard for you, the neighborhoods. This was intended to be a handout for neighborhoods to be able to take some of the complexity out of traffic management in your neighborhood. So that's yet to be kind of published, but they're working on final drafts right now. And then I wanted to mention this one because we, through the Transportation Advisory Committee, the Central Point Speed Study was something that came to us as a request. We looked at it from our traffic counts that we get every 3 years. We get traffic counts throughout the city. By the way, all that's online. You're available. It's available for viewing. But we just got the 2017 data. That combined with all the prior years, we looked at the speeds along Central Point Road, and it turns out that in the section that's marked 45, people are generally driving slower than 45. In the section that's closer into town, where it's marked 35, people are generally driving faster. Not quite sure why that is, but to me, it kind of sends a message that it's our citizens who are in town that are probably speeding through that section more than those from out of town that might be coming into the city. Now, that's a huge generalization, but it kind of seems like that. But the question is, you know, the concern is if, again, when you get this neighborhood traffic fact sheet, you'll learn that ODOT does our traffic studies for us. So if we request a traffic or speed study for a particular street, ODOT comes in, they put us on a list, and ODOT comes in and does the speed study. It's kind of an independent speed study. And it's possible, if people drive faster, that the speeds could be increased, not decreased. So that would be counterproductive to what we thought we heard from the folks that made the request at the Transportation Advisory Committee. So there's other factors. The police department necessarily and their traffic division need to chime in, and the engineering department has to chime in. And there's also an element that looks for public comment on that. So we don't have it quite up yet, but we hope to soon. So just keep that in mind if you're interested in that, would like to provide comment on Central Point speeds, because the idea would be you could just search Central Point on our website and be able to get to that place. And really it's just information about who you are and how to get back in touch with you, and whether you think it should be 30, 35, 40, or 45 miles an hour. So that'll help inform that from a more of a public involvement perspective.
Did you look at Partlow when you were doing that study, or was it strictly Central Point?
Well, Partlow. No, we did not look at Partlow.
Okay.
Oh, man. Sorry. So the alternate mobility study, I know this is a lot of information, but hey, I only come every 6 months.
I was going to say, it's 15 minutes from each month, so if you come back.
Okay, so let's see. So this is part of the alternate mobility study. That basically the end result is that it looks like we need a free-flowing right-hand turn lane. So if you're coming from Beaver Creek Road, turning on to northbound 213, there'd be a free-flowing lane that would have an extended acceleration lane associated with it. And this is kind of the only practical recommendation that came out of the study. That work continues. We had a technical advisory group and a citizen advisory group where we had intended to meet with them, and we're finished with those meetings. But because of some of the changes and some of the communication we've had with ODOT, we're planning to ask those folks to come back to yet another meeting. And so let's see. I don't have the dates, but I'm not sure that the dates have actually been set yet. But if you're on those committees, we will be in contact with you. And really, to me, the end result is there's going to be more congestion at this location and the other location, which is Redland and Highway 213. They're both in the alternate mobility study. This project here would include an additional, a third through lane in each direction. The challenge that we have there is that neither ODOT nor the city can afford to fund that. We've got in our transportation SDC project list, we included 30% of this project. It's about a $10 million project. The other one we also included funding for. We think we can fund that one with SDCs, and that was around a $3 million project. So the idea is we're trying to do our part. We need ODOT and Clackamas County and other users of that facility to step up. We haven't seen it yet, but you know, that combined with living with, you know, some more congestion, if we could build this project, we really wouldn't have, you know, congestion that didn't meet the state standards, but without it, it may. I know, it's a bunch. We already did the ODOT stuff. Just know there's a lot going on with Metro, not so much going on with TriMet. The best probably news of the night is Oregon legislature approved pretty big funding package that affects Oregon City. And so it ramps up over a number of years, but at some point in time, like next year, we're supposed to see another $231,000 in gas taxes, and that ramps up to, well, it ramps up every year, but the target was $865,000 a year in gas taxes from the new gas tax increase that's been approved through the legislature. So we'll use that money for sidewalk projects, roadway projects, probably match for a lot of those projects that don't have SDCs associated with them, because we got a lot of projects like that. And that's very long, sorry. But.
So on your list, I did not see the Molalla Avenue completion project. Where is that? Where
It
did
was
that
on there.
stand?
You missed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I slept through that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's waiting on funding at least 2019.
2019, right?
2019. Okay.
Okay, me have one
It's
question
waiting on
too.
the-
What a surprise.
Karen, you had a question?
John, so ODOT just made me curious. The bluff from 10th to the tunnel, who's responsible for that bluff face above the railroad tracks?
Well, I think that's the railroad. It's not ODOT.
Yeah, and
It could be the city, could be, I mean, you mean the stuff above the tracks really between the tunnels?
because there's some substantial tree growth going on up there.
Yeah, yeah.
I was actually trying to spot something one day from down below and hadn't really noticed how heavily wooded that face is getting.
Yeah, yeah, I took some photos of it today because I wasn't exactly sure what that was going to sound like. So yeah, you're right, but it's not ODOT, so it's the city or Union Pacific.
Could you report to us later?
Okay.
Christina's taking notes.
There's a follow-up for us. Tom, I noticed you marked this, but we actually don't take comments on the items. It'll be just under the public comment period.
Which is next?
That's next.
So much for public process.
Well, it's
No,
on the
you're
agenda.
allowed to, yeah, it'll be, we take public comments during the public comment period, just not on presentations. But you can comment on the presentation during the comment period. All right, any other questions for John? Okay.
That was a lot.
Then we move
25
right on to the public comments. I hope these are in order that they were received. Maybe I can clarify that.
First.
I'll do my best.
Yes, there.
Okay. So first up, Phil Lewis. Reminder that you have 3 minutes and that that's for you, not for us. We won't be asking you questions.
I'll keep mine a little shorter than John's. My name's Phil Lewis.
It's now 36.
Community Services Director for the city. I just wanted to come and give you an update. I came and spoke with this group last during the summer months and give you some information on Library Park, Carnegie Library Park, and the naming process happening through PRAC. I just wanted to update you and let you know that there will be further discussion at the PRAC meeting this Thursday. Meeting begins at 7 p.m. here in the Commission chambers. And information that was discussed at the previous PRAC meeting, they decided to rescind their previous vote to change the name of the park. And there will be further discussions on next steps as to how to move forward with either keeping the name of the park as Carnegie Library Park or moving forward with a different name suggestion that may move forward to commission. So if you have interest in that, I would welcome you to come and listen. You can also provide comment during the comment period as well.
Great.
And when is that?
Thank you.
It's this Thursday, December 7th, 7 p.m. here in the commission chambers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
In a minute.
Betty Mom?
Hello, Betty Mum, Oregon City resident. I'm here to tell you about Barkley Hills Neighborhood Association. We had our meeting on November 14th. We met at the Founders Clinic. We had a presentation by them. They are doing flu shots, no charge, walk-ins. They're open 3 days a week. We're loving that. We had a presentation from Mike Day, the Oregon City Police homeless liaison officer, which was great to learn about that. We had a presentation on apartments that are being built maybe on Pleasant Avenue. And then we had elections. So we have our new vice chair.
Hello, I'm Michael McGuire.
Say it again.
Michael McGuire.
Michael McGuire.
And then we have a new secretary, John Easton. The two CIC reps that are going to be put forward is Janice Morse. She's our current treasurer, and she would be the primary, and John would be the alternate. And then we are actually going to have a meeting on the 14th, I want to say, or the 12th, I'm sorry, of this month, and talk about maybe 2018 and how we can get more people involved in our neighborhood. So I just wanted to bring you guys up to date on Barkley Hills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Okay, I know I can have this. Janine, is it Offit?
Yeah. I'm Janine Offit. I'm from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. Well, no, from the neighborhood. I'm not speaking on.
Oh, okay. You're speaking for yourself.
I thought there was going to be more of a discussion today about Public Works expansion at Waterboard Park, and I prepared a brief statement that bears on the geological hazards there. I love Waterboard Park. I've walked the loop there thousands of times in the past 20 years. There's signage in the park warning that's a geological hazard area, and it's easy to see why. You can see the ground shift from season to season, from year to year. It's hard for me to fathom why we would risk investing so much time, energy, and resources into new public work facilities at the base of such a tenuous slope. 2 years ago, I contacted Dr. Chris Goldfinger. He's a professor of geology and geophysics at OSU and one of the world's leading experts on the Cascadia subduction zone. I expressed my concerns about Oregon City's plans to expand their public works facility at the base of a landslide area. He replied that, quote, many local officials and departments haven't really gotten the memo, so to speak, on the earthquake situation. Many have, and heavy equipment needed in emergencies in some cases have been moved to better locations. Mainly, he said he'd encourage all public works departments to consider how their equipment is stored and accessed with respect to earthquakes. When I emailed this information to John Lewis, he wrote me back with assurances about resilient geological formations and professional opinions. Mr. Lewis said, I know several areas in Waterboard Park that I too would label as prone to catastrophic failure even without an earthquake. But in fact, we understand the specifics of detailed professional analyses, which to date suggest something less concerning for the Public Works Operations Center upper and lower yards. In other words, he's saying the geologically hazardous areas are not near the proposed building site. Really? Have you looked at the slope above the armory since they've been removing the ivy? This is not solid ground. It's a mishmash of rocks, soil, and boulders strewn over a steep slope. Last week, I contacted contacted Dr. Goldfinger again and asked about websites that map the geological activity of Waterboard Park. And I would have liked to have shown it on the screen, but I'm told I'm not able to. So I
Just let you know you have about a minute left, so.
Yeah, I'm free, so I can pass that around. So Dr. Goldfinger said, well, I took a look at the state landslide map tool that you can also look at here. This is the Oregon Department of Geology and Mineral Industries. He writes, what I see is the west end of that bluff at Waterboard Park is clearly a landslide and mapped as such in the database. There's also a second landslide that was not mapped in the database at the northeastern part of the park. So essentially most of that park is landslide territory. Since about 2/3 of that bluff has failed so far, it's pretty reasonable to assume the last bit will as well, though no one can say when that might be. In my opinion, this would be poor choice for storage of anything important, including particularly emergency equipment. I've attached 2 maps from the Slido tool created by DOGAMI.
That was really bad. Apologies.
I hope this helps and appreciate your efforts to push for a more sensible choice to house emergency equipment. All the best, Dr. Chris Goldfinger. That's basically what I have to say, and the map is going around.
Okay, thank you. Tom O'Brien.
Pardon my cough. Tom O'Brien, a resident of Oregon City. First, I'd like to compliment John and his team on particularly 3 of the things that he mentioned. I think it's very helpful that you're using latest technology as the cameras to look at the infrastructure that we have and improve it. So my compliments on that. Also, I have felt for some time that we are missing the boat compared to other cities. So I'm glad to see that you're finally going around and talking with other people who we are actually competing against to find out how they operate and what they do in terms of working with development and so forth. So my compliments on that. And thirdly, I'd like to recognize the fact that you are trying some new materials for road paving. I think there's a lot of advances from what I understand in that arena, and I'm glad to see you jumping on board and at least attempting to find out what works for us. So those were the things I wanted to compliment you on. I was literally shocked to hear on the radio a few weeks ago that Matt had received this Pacific Northwest Pavement Managers Association's award. I was so shocked because within 20 seconds of hearing it on the radio in the car, I hit several potholes along Central Point Road. I was literally shocked. And for another quarter mile after that, it was nothing but ruts. And I thought, I wonder what the criteria are for this award. And so I went onto their site and I discovered that the primary criteria that separates one pavement manager from another is the amount of participation they have within that organization. So that's kind of a summary of what they said the criteria were for making the judgment decision on who should get the award. But I really came tonight to talk about one of the things that you had listed under private interest, and that is the Waterboard Park use by Public Works Department. And quite honestly...
Just to let you know, Tom, you got about a minute.
Okay, thanks. Quite honestly, I probably should direct this to our commissioner that's here this evening, but I don't understand how, when our city charter, section 41, says that you cannot use parkland for those purposes, how in the world the city believes they should be doing this. So I leave it at that, and hopefully we'll get a response from one of the commissioners. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Hey, Tom, if you're interested, we've also posted the Pavement Management Association application that we submitted online, because I think you shouldn't be surprised at the fact that we got that award. I really think that, obviously there's some roads that need work in this town. That doesn't necessarily reflect that, but our pavement condition index over the last few years has actually increased, which means our pavement quality is much better than it was. And, despite the fact that we've had folks that have been not happy about that, payment fee. That fee has been impactful to this city. And having folks like Matt that have the kind of qualifications that he has, and to be honest with you, it surprises me that if you know Matt, that you would even have brought that kind of a comment up. The guy is so dedicated to this city. It's unfortunate.
Submitting photos and requests to repair those potholes at the corner.
Isn't Central Point a county
They're
road?
so deep, it's ridiculous.
I drive it regularly myself, and I disagree, but
John, isn't Central Point a county road?
no, city road.
Okay.
That
All the way
section-
out?
That section is.
Okay.
Tom's complaining about near Partlow.
Oh,
but,
okay.
yeah.
All right, let's move on. Staff liaison updates from our last meeting.
Yeah,
Christina.
sure. There were two of them. And there was confirmation request about the meeting minutes to action items. That is moving forward. So along with the rest of city commissions and committees, we'll be following along with the action item outlined for future minutes. The second one, there was a question about getting land use notices on the main page. And I was excited when Mike Mitchell requested that because I've been asking that too. So thank you. I'm
not there yet.
I'm working with David Knoll, our GIS coordinator, who, as well as working with us on our revisions to our website, we plan on getting a link. I don't quite know when or where, but it'll be on the main page. I also want to let everyone know that we are beta testing our subscription service right now. So if you go under orcity.org/subscribe, there's some options about getting notifications for city commissions and committee agendas, as well as land use notices. So try it out. The link is on my commission report. Let me know if anything what you experience or anything funky. We're kind of doing a little bit of a soft launch right now, trying to understand how best it's working. Is there something that should be on there that's not? Let us know your thoughts, and then we'll be doing a more public outreach in 2018 to explain how people can sign up to get access to land use notices and agendas on their own. Oops. And so
we'd received an email from you that said that talking about the main page, and it said late 2018. Was that just a oops?
Winter 2018. So probably about March, I think, is what we're looking at.
Okay.
So those are the two updates I have for right now.
Okay.
And I'm taking notes for the end of the meeting for next.
Good job. And follow my approval of the minutes. So our final minutes that we have to take the old way, right?
No, this is the new one.
This is a new one? You can tell I looked at it. Those of you who looked at it. So do we need to approve it now? Since they're action items, do they still have to be approved? Okay. I can't even talk. Someone want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes as distributed.
I'll second it.
Second with that. Any conversation, discussion? All right. By the raise of hand, all approved. Any against? And any abstain? Okay, motion passed. Sorry, I don't have a printable copy here. Okay. Round table. We'll start with Roy, since you've been so loud over there. We might as well let you talk some more.
Okay, we had our last steering committee meeting, November 7th. Ms. Robinson was there. We were discussing better ways of notifying the residents of our meetings versus spending a ton of money on cards that nobody would actually read. We're trying to focus more on internet and Facebook and stuff like that to try to get people to the meetings, because the flyers just don't seem to be working. So we just ran some ideas through there. Our next general meeting will be on January 2nd at the Living Hope Church, 7 p.m. to normal place. We do have a steering committee meeting tomorrow night. We'll have a presentation on a minor
Partition.
No, annexation. That's all I got, unless Joyce will have more later.
Okay, Vern?
I'll pass.
Commissioner Shaw?
Just probably one thing. I think tomorrow night we'll have before the commission the emergency declaration for the warming shelters for Oregon City. So we're just going to do this one time, and then our trustee city manager, I believe, is going to have the authority to do this when it comes up instead of having to come to the commission each time. So. So that's kind of cool. That'll be at the Wednesday night. It's the Oregon City Residential Center, which I think they took in 100 people last year in the lower part of the old hospital, and they work in conjunction with Father's Heart. Father's Heart is where the people go, and then they go from Father's Heart to the residential. So Father's Heart actually is the overseer of the warming shelter.
But they don't actually stay in that building at Father's Heart?
They can't, yeah. They stay there, and actually the residential street, the old residential hospital is a offload.
Oh, for overflow.
Father's Heart.
Oh, okay.
So when Father's Heart gets full, then they start running them up to the old hospital.
And they had 100 people at Father's Heart?
No, I don't know how many they had at Father's Heart. But
Oh.
They had 100 people at the residential, what do you call that? Oregon City Retirement Hospital.
Okay, center.
So, but yeah, they served over 100 people over, I don't know what it was, 12 days or something like that. So,
wow.
And it turned out really good. So I don't know how many I don't know how much area of the hospital, of the retirement center is available this year, but that's only what he could use last year. So that's it.
Great. Tony?
So just to build on that, so yeah, we had a request in cooperation with Clackamas Community College for Father's Heart and the Oregon City Retirement Center. So last winter, you may recall, we did 3 or 4 emergency resolutions to allow them to be a warming shelter during cold nights. And it was based on a certain temperature that got hit. It's around freezing. They would be allowed to open in coordination with approval from the building official as well as the fire department. So the Clackamas County Fire District, building official for Oregon City worked to standardize the minimum requirements to be a warming shelter. So that'll be part of the agreement. So we received a request from Clackamas County for Father's Heart and the Oregon City Retirement Center. So instead of coming back multiple times over the winter, we're going to proposal in front of the commission for their consideration on Wednesday night is to, from adoption of the resolution through March 15th for the entire time. Once it hits a certain temperature, including wind chill, they'd be allowed to open until that event's over for overnight accommodations in the facility. We also, I think Laura's brought to you before, we received a grant to look at affordable housing and code changes that could potentially be made to encourage or remove barriers for affordable housing investment in the community, and addressing this emergency shelter is one of the work items that they're looking at. Is there a way that we can address this and codify it rather than coming back with emergency resolutions every winter to try to address this housing issue during cold spells that we see here in the community? Sure.
I just had a question. I read in the paper about some low-income residential housing that we have in Oregon City. It's like community or something that they're thinking of selling or something. Does the city
county property out
agree with that, or are they against that?
So the Clackamas County Housing Authority owns 2 significant properties up in Park Place. They're considering selling the one further up Holcomb, up a little bit further north, and then redeveloping the southern one down by Steve's Market. So that's their plan right now. So we're in discussions with them about what that might look like. It's really early in that process right now.
Okay, thanks.
So they, just to kind of build on a little bit, the upper part is called Oregon City View Manor. And that's what they're trying to do is generate revenue to build more affordable housing units within Clackamas County. But they've also agreed to somewhat keep about 3 acres of that parcel, which is kind of next to Holcomb School, especially for the people that have kind of lived there all their lives just about in that project. So there's going to be some that they're going to keep for the local area. And then there'll be about 17 acres that they want to sell and generate the revenue for more housing within the county. So.
And does that sound good to you?
Well, my thought was I wanted them to replace, if they're going to take a unit out, I want it replaced. You know, and if you've been up there, you can see it's not a very dense neighborhood. They've got these duplexes that, you know, they're pretty nice. I mean, the area's nice, not the buildings, because they're 1942. But I would like to see it densified, you know, with some buildings and maybe multi-story buildings and stuff. But I also understand it's not our property, so I really, you know, we're kind of at their mercy and stuff, but they are really working with us on this, so that's the good thing. So, but the lot below down by Steve Market is, that is Clackamas Heights. And that's the whole property there is going to actually be redeveloped into all low-income housing, because they're all like 1942 projects also.
Oh, so they're not going to put in McMansions or something? They're going to be low-income housing?
On the lower part by Steve's Market, yes.
Oh, okay.
But up on the upper part, the section up on the hill, which is the Oregon City View Manor section, is going to be sold for development, except for about 3 acres of it.
Okay, thank you.
The police department, the new facility that they're constructing, so we went to the commission, authorized to sell the bonds to construct that facility. We hope to take it out to market in February or March of 2018. And on Friday, much like we did with the library, we're bringing on what we call an owner's rep. So essentially representing the city and the work with the architect and the construction firm that'll come in. That seemed to go really smoothly with the library. So that RFP closed on Friday. So we'll hopefully be hiring up the owner's rep here pretty soon for the police facility. There's been some questions about marijuana retailers, so just an update of where we're at in that. We've received to date 26 applications for retail marijuana sales, stores in the community. 6 have been approved, 2 on Main Street, 3 on Molalla, and 1 on Beaver Creek Road. 17 have been withdrawn, expired, out, or denied. And then 3 are under review, and 2 of those are on Molalla, and 1 is on 7th. And then just an interesting update, we received our population forecast from Portland State University of the Population Research Center. So the certified census figure from April 1st of 2010 was a population of Oregon City of 31,859. The certified population estimate on July 1 of 2016 was 34,240, and the preliminary population estimate on July 1 of 17 was 34,610. So just give you an idea what the population of Oregon City and how it's grown over the last couple of years.
35.
That concludes my updates for tonight.
Christina?
Sure, thank you. We have a new planner in our planning division. With Trevor Martin leaving in September, we had some reorganization. Kelly Reed was promoted to planner, and she's now going to be the preservation planner support for Oregon City, and has already now had her second historic review board meeting that she has led, so we're really excited about that. And our new assistant planner, his name is Carlos Cayava, and he's a new graduate from PSU, and he's really excited, and we're excited to have him. It's a limited 1-year duration position to help backfill some of our amazing load that we have this year in planning. So if you see him, say hi, welcome to Oregon City. He is just starting his 2nd week with Oregon City. Many of you may have heard, but maybe some of you were there, but Friends of Trees had a great tree planting on Saturday. We planted 80 trees in Rivercrest, Berkeley Hills, and McLaughlin. A lot of them were street trees, so there are some yard trees that will have covenants put on them. And the Friends of Trees program is a contract we have. If you have questions or are part of those neighborhoods, either part of those Rivercrest, Berkeley Hills, McLaughlin, or you're a new neighborhood that wants to get involved in the future years, you can contact Friends of Trees directly. annually. And that contract money is paid out of our street tree mitigation fund. So through subdivisions and development applications, we're able to use that money and put it back into our community. Let's see. And finally, I said this in an email, but there were 3 grievances submitted last week. And they were not able to get on the agenda tonight, but they will be addressed in the February meeting. Oh, actually, then just real quickly, the questions I have, and you can confirm, Chair Wilhite, about the location of the trees with the ODOT presentation. I'll check back, see if we can get more information. I'll put that in the email. There was an online open house comment, and I thought it'd be nice to get that. We may be on the fact sheet, but I'll put it back again on my update email. There was a question about Union Pacific and city ownership of the wall, and as well as the speed study on Central Point. I can get a link out to that to get online.
Okay. Anything that we've missed that you guys know? Okay. John, did you have anything else? Joyce?
This being my last CIC meeting, because a new representative will be taking over if the mayor so appoints in January. Just want to remind people that, the Citizen Involvement Committee, our main reason for being is the land use, but also working together as neighborhoods because we all want to live, work, shop, and recreate here in Oregon City. And so there's lots of fun things to do. And one thing is in the Hillendale neighborhood, and that's the farmer's market. So make sure you check on which Saturdays the farmer's market is open, and make sure you shop at our farmer's market and shop downtown. The tree lighting ceremony, it was the best weather they've ever had, I think, for the tree lighting this last Saturday. I mean, we've stood out there in the icy rain and things before. It was nice, and the tree looks beautiful downtown. Shop downtown, and remind everybody that First Friday Films, which is sponsored by the library and held at the End of the Trail Interpretive Center in their theater. It wasn't a great movie this last Friday about philanthropy, but it was a really good discussion. And it's a great time where you can get together with 30 local residents and talk about things. So keep your eyes and ears open. Live, work, shop, and recreate right here in Oregon City.
And play pickleball.
And play pickleball, yes, in Hillendale Park. We've got the best parks, but no schools, so we have no safe routes in Hillendale neighborhood.
So Gaffney Lane, I'm excited to say we were able to hold elections at our last meeting, and we now have a vice chair. Her name is Micah Scott, and her name will be put forward as the alternate for the CIC rep. So I'm getting some movement there. One of our neighbors said that ODOT, in their cameras where you can look at, there's one for 213 in Beaver Creek. I hadn't heard that. I didn't know if that was really. If anybody else had
I thought that was just a speed camera.
I know, but she said no, you can look that up. So I forgot to check it.
I know it's not a speed camera, but.
No, yeah, I know it's not a speed camera. So there it is. Go out and look and see 213 in Beaver Creek. She said that.
It could be associated with land use application where they're counting vehicles.
She said it was, yeah. So we are having a steering committee meeting at some time this month. That's yet to be decided, to help get Mike on board and plan for our January meeting. And that's what I have.
Okay. We had our general meeting, and we accidentally experimented with something. We did not mail out postcards this time. It was rather inadvertent, but it was a great market test. And I think given the nature of the Rivercrest neighborhood, it does tend to be a little older. Our attendance plummeted without the postcards, so we will be continuing to use postcards in addition to electronic media. We had our elections, and nobody stepped up as treasurer, so our secretary is continuing to do the 2 jobs. However, we had a really good discussion. Brian Willard is our police liaison, and he's actually traffic, but he kind of got put on the spot. We are really, really having problems at the top of Waterboard Park. It includes traffic problems, drug use, littering, kind of spreading back out into the neighborhood. And so one of the things I realized I forgot to do, we're going to send our minutes to Jim Band and Phil Lewis and see maybe if we could do some brainstorming. One of the suggestions one of the neighbors had is to take the parking out at the top. That tends to be part of the problem. But it is growing, and it doesn't seem to have anything to do with school hours, which is making us believe that these aren't locals. We're actually bringing in people with nefarious thoughts. So something we need to be addressing as a neighborhood. And I had a compliment from Mr. Lewis tonight. The second tree was taken down in front of Mount Pleasant School. They didn't start till 9 o'clock. Thank you, Martin. I'd asked Martin, don't start before 9. Chainsaws wake me up. But they got that taken out. The apartment complex paid to have the other one taken out. And it took the Public Works a day and a half to move a fire hydrant. That thing was, I went over a couple of times and kind of peeked at them working. And by the way, it looked very antique. I'm wondering where the old one went.
I don't know any of it.
The fire hydrant looked like something out of a 1920s movie. And there's a nice new one.
Wagon.
Yeah, there's a nice new one now on the other side of the sidewalk. But they did a beautiful job, good job of traffic control, nice job cleaning up. And the only thing that's kind of funny, I should know better. That area along Lynn was wheat fields until about the 1930s. And with those 3 oak trees gone, it's bare up there. If you really kind of stand out on Lynn and look around, there's 2 tall trees as far as you can see. You know, there's some trees, but they're lower and younger. So it's kind of a different vista. But they did excellent work, were very considerate, and you guys do good.
That reminded me, Karen, at our neighborhood, we also talked about the problem at the top of Waterboard Park because a number of the neighbors, including myself, have been told over and over to call the police if we have a problem and call the non-emergency number. And we've been basically harassed by the communications specialists that answer the phones and give you a hard time and interrogate you that you're trying to report minors smoking pot and other nefarious activities. So that came up, and we shared that problem with our liaison, who will hopefully take it back to Chief Band also. But that is a huge concern in our neighborhood too, because we like to come enjoy that area. Bill?
Nothing to report.
Jesse?
Thank you. I didn't bring my notes from the last M&A meeting, so I'll just hit the highlights. We also had Mike Day, the homeless liaison officer, give a great presentation at the general meeting in November, and that took up most of the meeting. It was a very well-attended meeting, and so it sounds like he's making the rounds on that. We also had a discussion about, I think it's called the Abernathy Place Hotel. Is that the one down in bottom of Washington? And in fact, had a special general meeting later in November to discuss that topic specifically. And we have our steering committee meeting this Thursday at 7, so it's going to conflict with the PrAC meeting, but that's going to be over at the fire station. Some of the topics we're going to be considering are whether to start experimenting with using a bit of our funding to do Facebook ads to try and get more notices out for meetings. You know, that's in the public involvement plan using social media. There's some promotions that are accessible for a while. So spend a few bucks and see if we get anyone to show up who saw those ads.
That would be good to know.
Okay. And I think I had one other thing, but I don't remember what it was. Gordon?
I passed. I wasn't there, so.
Oh, it was, the neighborhood is also concerned about the top of Waterboard Park. People have complained about being catcalled at the top, walking through the park, being otherwise yelled at and intimidated. So there's at least 3 neighborhood associations that should talk about that. Thank you.
Linda?
We have had over 30 people attend our meetings for over the last 4 years. We just did a quick count for this, but Dennis will report everything else.
Adding that, we had a general meeting on the 16th of November, And we went through the public safety updates, the neighborhood reports, and we concluded the meeting with an election with the 30 people present and input from the nominating committees, and we have some new representatives. And we haven't yet met in the steering committee capacity. That's coming up, and we will bring forth those names and pass them to the city. That's my report.
In 2 days?
In a couple days. Do they have it? If you have it, I'm not sure.
That would go to Katie.
Anyway, so we're very delighted, and we have some new people with some new energy, and I'm very confident that their ideas will be implemented.
That is one follow-up item to if there's any neighborhoods that we still haven't heard from that we could help encourage.
We'll send out a secondary notice.
But if you could let us know, maybe let me know if there's some that are missing that I could help.
Okay.
Mike.
There is, in fact, an ODOT camera at 213 in Beaver Creek.
There is. I was just looking at it.
There we go.
Caulfield neighborhood, we had our meeting last week. It was quite well attended, close to 30 people. A couple of the presentations we heard, one was from Bob Cochran, who's the Dean of Campus Services at CCC, and he walked us through all of their projects, which really are exciting, and he did talk about the new transit center, and it's pretty extensive, and they got some TriMet money, state money, maybe both?
Yes, state money, it's not TriMet money.
State money.
Yeah, I can't think of which. Yeah, Connect Oregon.
Yeah. So we heard about all their projects, which are very exciting. We had a nice presentation from our Community Services Director, Phil Lewis, on the timing of the development of the park property on Glen Oak Road and also some of the other projects going on around the city. We had our elections, and basically all of the people were reelected to their positions for another year. We are still flailing about looking for a secretary. That seems to be a tough one to fill for some reason. People panic over the idea of having to take minutes, I guess. And then we had a report that our chair on the Villages at Beaver Creek apartments, which were right across from the high school. They were not able to have a representative there. We had some of the paperwork that had been presented, and I think we might have generated more questions than answers. So we're hoping in our January meeting to have a representative of that group present, and Christina was nice enough. She's going to get Pete Walter, who's the planner on that project, to get us a couple answers on some of the other questions that came up. And our next meeting is January 23rd, and I think that's it.
Okay. Any follow-ups? Okay, with that, we are adjourned.
Well done.